Chapter 47. Then Joseph went and told Pharaoh, and said, My father and my brothers, their flocks and their herds and all that they possess, have come from the land of Canaan, and indeed they are in the land of Goshen. And he took 5 men from among his brothers, and presented them to Pharaoh. Then Pharaoh said to his brothers, What is your occupation? And they said to Pharaoh, Your servants are shepherds, both we and also our fathers. And they said to Pharaoh, We have come to dwell in the land, because your servants have no pasture for their flocks, for the famine is severe in the land of Canaan. Now therefore, please let your servants dwell in the land of Goshen. Then Pharaoh spoke to Joseph, saying, Your father and your brothers have come to you. The land of Egypt is before you. Have your father and brothers dwell in the best of the land. Let them dwell in the land of Goshen. And if you know any competent men among them, then make them chief herdsmen over my livestock. Then Joseph brought in his father Jacob, and set him before Pharaoh. And Jacob blessed Pharaoh. Pharaoh said to Jacob, How old are you? And Jacob said to Pharaoh, The days of the years of my pilgrimage are 130 years. Few and evil have been the days of the years of my life, and they have not attained to the days of the years of the life of my fathers in the days of their pilgrimage. So Jacob blessed Pharaoh, and went out from before Pharaoh. And Joseph situated his father and his brothers, and gave them a possession in the land of Egypt, in the best of the land, in the land of Ramesses, as Pharaoh had commanded. Then Joseph provided his father, his brothers, and all his father's household with bread, according to the number in their families. Now there was no bread in all the land, for the famine was very severe, so that the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan languished because of the famine. And Joseph gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan for the grain which they bought. And Joseph brought the money into Pharaoh's house. So when the money failed in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came to Joseph and said, Give us bread, for why should we die in your presence? For the money has failed. Then Joseph said, Give your livestock, and I will give you bread for your livestock if the money is gone. So they brought their livestock to Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread in exchange for the horses, the flocks, the cattle of the herds, and for the donkeys. Thus he fed them with bread in exchange for all their livestock that year. When that year had ended, they came to him the next year, and said to him, We will not hide from my lord that our money is gone. My lord also has our herds of livestock. There is nothing left in the sight of my lord but our bodies and our lands. Why should we die before your eyes, both we and our land? Buy us and our land for bread, and we and our land will be servants of Pharaoh. Give us seed, that we may live and not die, that the land may not be desolate. Then Joseph bought all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh. For every man of the Egyptians sold his field, because the famine was severe upon them. So the land became Pharaoh's. And as for the people, he moved them into the cities, from one end of the borders of Egypt to the other end. Only the land of the priests he did not buy, for the priests had rations allotted to them by Pharaoh, and they ate their rations which Pharaoh gave them. Therefore they did not sell their lands. Then Joseph said to the people, Indeed, I have bought you and your land this day for Pharaoh. Look, here is seed for you, and you shall sow the land. And it shall come to pass in the harvest that you shall give 1/5 to Pharaoh. 4/5 shall be your own, as seed for the field and for your food, for those of your households, and as food for your little ones. So they said, you have saved our lives. Let us find favor in the sight of my lord, and we will be Pharaoh's servants." And Joseph made it a law over the land of Egypt to this day, that Pharaoh should have 1/5, except for the land of the priests only, which did not become Pharaoh's. So Israel dwelt in the land of Egypt, in the country of Goshen, and they had possessions there, and grew and multiplied exceedingly. And Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years. So the length of Jacob's life was 147 years. When the time drew near that Israel must die, he called his son Joseph and said to him, "Now if I have found favor in your sight, please put your hand under my thigh and deal kindly and truly with me. Please do not bury me in Egypt, but let me lie with my fathers. You shall carry me out of Egypt and bury me in their burial place." And he said, "I will do as you have said." Then he said, "Swear to me." And he swore to him. So Israel bowed himself on the head of the bed.
As you can see, this LG again. As you can see, that God, he let Joseph be sold into Egypt by his brother. Excuse me. He had Joseph sold into Egypt by his brothers. But Joseph didn't know what the purpose was, but he found out later. See, sometimes you don't know what God's purpose is. Sometimes you don't understand God's purpose. So you think you're confused, or you think you don't understand. But you will understand when the time comes. See, sometimes you may not know where you're going. Sometimes you may not even know if you're going or coming. But if you trust in God and you believe that God is who he say he is, then you know if you is truly a child of God, then you know that God is going to come through for you at the right time and at the appointed time. Joseph happened to be in the right place at the right time. It may have not been his will in the beginning for Joseph, but when Joseph realized that God granted him the ability to interpret dreams, Joseph knew that God had called him out. And God had set him aside for a time just like this. That Joseph is going to be able to deliver his family in 7 years of famine, when he probably would have lost his father and all his brothers and sisters. God is always going to have a bridge over troubled water. God is always going to have a doctor in the sick room. God is always going to have a way out of no way. Pharaoh told him to bring his family, and they can stay in Goshen, and they can have the best land of Goshen, of Egypt. And they should be herdsmen over their flock. See, God can deliver you out of a famine. God can deliver you out of a tough situation. All you got to do is trust him. When the Egyptians ran out of food, they came to Joseph and they bought food until all of their money was gone. When all their money was gone, they came and they sold their livestock. When all their livestock was gone, they sold their land. And when their land was gone, they sold themselves to Pharaoh. That they'll be Pharaoh's slave. See, they didn't have trust in God. They didn't have that same faith that the Hebrews possessed. They didn't have that deep-rooted faith in God from generation to generation. They didn't have that. So they spent all their money on luxury living. Then when that money was gone, they sold their flock and they sold their herd. And when that flock and that herd were gone, they sold their animals. Then they sold their land. And then they sold themselves into captivity. Just because they didn't want to put their faith in God. They didn't want to believe in the Hebrew God. They believed in money and power and position. When all they had to do was to trust in God and let God lead them and guide them in the way that He would have me to go. They couldn't do that. They trusted in themselves. They trusted in their own strength. So ain't nowhere in the Bible it tell you that you're not going to go through trials. And you're not going to go through tribulation. Don't let nobody tell you that. We know that the Hebrews spent 400 years in captivity. But they didn't lose the faith. They kept believing that God was going to send. God was going to send them a deliverer. And God came through. After over 400 years, God sent Moses to Pharaoh. And He told Moses to tell Pharaoh, let my people go. The African American was brought into America in 1619. We spent 240 years in slavery. And then we went through another 200 years being treated unfair and unjust. But here it is, 2025 now. God has raised us up, the black and the brown people, to possess 90% of the world's population is possessed by black and brown people. Now we have the Caucasian race. It's the only race, not all of them now. Not all white people are bad. There's some good ones. And I thank them every time I talk about this. I thank them for helping us out, to help give us opportunity. But I have to point out the evil. I have to point out the evil. I will not be doing my duty if I don't point out the evil. last year, November 5th, 2024, some black people voted for evil. Some Mexican people voted for evil. Some Asian people voted for evil. Arabs, Jews, Native Americans, Mexicans, every race voted for evil. And then 100 million people didn't even have the decency or the respect in the Constitution to even go vote. That's kind of sad. You want to live in a democracy, but you don't want to do the things that you have to do to help keep the democracy together. Those around 90 million people that didn't vote, shame on you. You stood back and you let these 77 million people went out and voted for an evil person that voted for a king or a dictator while you just sitting at home watching TV. You cared nothing about the Constitution. You cared nothing about freedom. Joseph was sold into Egypt by his own brothers. Just think about that. Your own brother sold you into Egypt, was going to kill you. But when the time came, when deliverance came, Joseph did what God had appointed him to do. He told his brother, don't be afraid. I know what you did to me. You did it because of evil. Even though God meant for it to be good, you used it for evil. But I know that God meant it for good. You don't have to be afraid. God didn't bring me this far to punish you. God put me in this position to save you. That's why every time I do a video, that's why I take hours and hours of my time. And I take time to study and to try to understand God's word. I'm showing you that people can take God's word and twist it to try to make evil look good. People would do that. People would turn the other cheek and expect for you to sit down like a scared puppy. But that's not what the Bible did. That's not what Joseph did. Joseph sent for his family. Even though they sold him, he sent for them. He wept over his family. And he delivered them from the famine. That's the difference between love. And that's the difference between faith and faith. When God is leading you and God is guiding you, He's not doing that for vengeance. He's doing that for love and respect and honor. When God lifts you up and God bless you, when God lifts you up and God bless you, He lifts you up and bless you so you can be a blessing. So when the time comes that you can deliver your people, just like Joseph did. So far, you can see Abraham was the one that God gave the promise to. Isaac was the promise. Jacob expanded the promise. Now Jacob is gone. It's all in Joseph's hands. Joseph asked his family members to do something for him when he died. And when the Messiah came and set them free, Joseph asked them to do something for him. He asked them, don't leave his body in Egypt. Just like Joseph did. Just like Abraham did. So don't leave his body in Egypt. That's the same thing that Joseph told the people. When the deliverer come and deliver you after 400 years of bondage, I'm asking you not to leave my bones in Egypt. That's a promise. And when Joseph died, 400 years in the wilderness, they said when they went up out of Egypt by a mighty hand, they kept the promise that they made to Joseph. They took his bone with them. No matter what the situation, no matter what the condition, if God's with you, he's more than the world against you. Thank you.